Here we go. Hey everybody, this is Bo back in the Sports Lounge. I want to do a shout out to the 1.5 million listeners that send us emails, texts, and questions. They love us or hate us. We love them all no matter what. And those military bases all over this planet that keep clicking on and letting us know they like us. We're going to go right now, have a chance to go one-on-one with one of the best kickboxers in the entire planet. It's none other than Kathy Long. Kathy, thank you.
You're very welcome, man. Thank you.
Kathy, 5-time kickboxing champion. You've been on films. You wrote books. You're pretty well like the NASCAR of kickboxing right now.
Thank you. You're a sweetheart.
Now, Kathy, you just finished off your MMA match with Avery. You've got a lot going on right now. You know, what exactly is in store for Kathy Long at this point?
Well, I have a 3-fight contract with the organization that I've signed on with called the Arm. So I'll probably finish that obligation, and then within the luck, I'll be going on to Strikeforce next year. But I feel I need at least 4 or 5 more fights before I can tackle Strikeforce and getting on Showtime. But the training's been going really well, and my body's holding up, and I'm doing okay.
Obviously. Obviously. Now, as far as the training goes, a lot of people, a lot of listeners are either casual fans or big fans. How hard was it to cross-train to go into MMA to work on ground and pound? We've got to see a lot of video footage of you in kickboxing. You've got some fast feet, fast arms, and you're very dominant. For the migration to MMA, how much did you have to alter your training?
Completely. Absolutely completely. And, I've got to say, I focused so much on defense for this fight that when I had opportunities, I let them go because I had focused so much on defense that the ground and pound wasn't there. There were several times when I was on top of Avery, and I didn't take advantage of that. So I'm back to the drawing board in that respect. When I knocked her down in the first round, without even thinking about it, I stepped back. And expected the ref to come in and give us any weight count, which is what I had been accustomed to. And so in that respect, I don't think I quite crossed over appropriately, but it's going to get better. It'll definitely get better. Well,
if you could draw conclusions to the stepping back, remember Brock Lesnar against Frank Mir the first time. Brock actually stepped back because he was so used to wrestling in Greco-Roman that Frank Mir just basically reached up, grabbed his leg, and that was lights over. There's a lot more in MMA than a lot of people think. What are kind of some of the big things that stood out that when you were going through training and then transferred to the ring that you kind of figured out your ahas? How many ahas did you have?
Well, the timing is different and the range is different. Especially when if you're throwing punches and you're in the middle of throwing a hook, they can weave right underneath it and take you down. So in that respect, I had to be very cautious about the range. I tried to keep everything at a longer range, so it would be harder for her to try to take me down. I mean, we went to the ground anyway, but because I had been focusing so much on my defensive skills on grappling. I thought that would be okay, but, I just thought if I run across a grappler, sole specialty is grappling, and they're okay on standing up, it's going to be more of a challenge. But I think one of the biggest ahas was getting my range down as far as striking.
Yeah, absolutely, because you've got that. If you miss, they can shoot the other leg. They can grab it. They can pull it and take it down to the ground. Kathy, you did an awesome job. I mean, the reputation that you have as a kickboxer, obviously everybody knows about, and everybody was watching this. The 2 biggest fights, I think, on the card that night was you and Cyborg. And I'd have to say that your fight with Avery probably was a little better. The Cyborg fight, I thought, ended really quick. A lot of people were talking about it because it was on Strikeforce and Showtime. But I thought that your fight that you had a lot for people, a big story. Avery coming off that near-death situation with her kidneys, coming into the ring. You, 5-time champion. I thought it was a much more compelling story, and we enjoyed it here.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And, I have to say, the whole time I had fun. And I don't suppose you hear too many MMA fighters saying that they had fun in their fight, but it was a blast. And I can hardly wait to do it again. There was just so much more I could have done. And realizing that, that of course incites the excitement to fight again.
Absolutely. I think, a lot of listeners out there we talk to really believe in some of the hype. In the ladies, it's a much more professional relationship. There's less talking. There's less hype. They just sort of come together and have an awesome, outlay of MMA skills. In the guys' game, it's all talk. A lot of guys hype. A lot of guys are real good buddies, and they try to give the mean faces. I would have to say the ladies are far more professional, at least at your level, that you've been at. I know Avery had all the respect in the world for you. That was one of her goals, is to step in the ring with you and go the distance, and she accomplished that and was very proud of the fact and very appreciative of having her shot against you. But that carries over in all of MMA. I'm not so sure if it's in kickboxing the same way.
Oh, it definitely was in kickboxing the same way. I mean, there were very few women who would, as they like to say, shit talk. But, those who did were generally the ones that were very afraid, and sometimes that's how people deal with their fears, is they develop diarrhea of the mouth. But, it's one of those things where you can say whatever you want, but when push comes to shove, the answer will be said in the ring, who wins. And, I think for guys especially, ego takes a much bigger play in the way guys see each other and the way they fight with each other. And
I think it's training too. I was going to confer with that and say, as well as training, many college wrestling coaches, many boxing trainers, many kickboxing coaches say that the ladies actually tend to listen a lot more, learn a lot quicker, and execute a lot better. Guys have a lot of barriers. Sometimes they have, usually, I shouldn't say sometimes, usually, and they don't tend to learn as quickly as the ladies. And you can see it in the mats in the octagon across the world.
I've run into that both as an instructor and as a student. I think because I don't have any ego. I walk in knowing that, okay, here are my deficits, here are my strengths, and I'm just here to learn. I'm not here to show that I'm better than everybody else. There's a saying on my refrigerator that I found very telling. Whatever women do, they must do twice as well as men to be thought half as good. Luckily, this is not difficult.
It sounds difficult.
Well, it can be, but if you cut away the ego, if you cut away the urge to, well, look, I'm a big, strong guy, I'm going to hit you hard without learning technique first. When you cut all that away, you find somebody who's just very interested in learning how it works, plain and simply. And in my entire years of growing up in martial arts, I was a technician first. My goal was to make sure that it was done absolutely perfectly. And if it meant I had to stand in front of that mirror for an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours every night throwing a jab the right way so that it was cemented in my muscle memory, I would do it.
You can see it in the way you execute on the videos of your X fights, and then even this Avery fight. You've got such a grace about you when you step into the ring. I think a lot of people are drawn to the fact how you come about, and I know a lot of people right now online are talking about the possible Cyborg matchup. And myself is that I would love to see it, but obviously I want to see it done the right way. So when they come together, it's a definite 5-round match.
Well, I don't know that I could ever reach the level of superiority that Cyborg has. And you got to understand too, I'm 45. I don't know how much longer my body's going to hold up.
Well, I'm 43 years old, and I appreciate anybody in their 40s fighting still, because I go outside and play basketball with my 12-year-old daughter, and she kills me, and my knees get... And I'm a member, I didn't want to bring up that point because I think there's too much in age, but right now in women's MMA, the best fighters and kickboxers that we've seen have all matured. They are much better than they were when they're younger, and they really are whipping a lot of the young athletes that are coming up through the ranks. To us, we're just sitting here watching that. In the guys, it's all the young guys getting the big stories. In the ladies, you got ladies that are 35 years old plus that are just dominating the sport and able to climb up the ladder. And trust me, I'm older. I appreciate it every time I see someone step out there.
I do believe in the advantage of muscle memory and muscle maturity. In that respect, when it came for me to get back into shape, I had, as far as, quote-unquote cutting the weight, I don't believe in cutting weight. So I just got to the weight I needed to be at by training hard. And my body was obviously accustomed to being at weight. I trained when I was kickboxing 24/7. I had one day off, but I was always at weight. Always at weight. I never varied in weight when I was competing in kickboxing. I didn't feel it was necessary to.
Awesome.
In fact, when I went from bantamweight up to featherweight, I was at probably the high end of bantamweight, which is